'Tis the season for giving, and we hope you're giving artwork this holiday. Hi everyone, I'm Laurie Fagen, and welcome to AZ Creates, a web series about the many creative people right here in the Grand Canyon State. On today's show, you'll hear from fiber and glass artist Adriene Buffington of Prescott in our Creative Connections segment, and author Edward L. Gates will be around to talk about his Western books in What Are You Reading? We'll feature the nonprofit Free Arts for Abused Children of Arizona organization. We'll bring you upcoming arts events and something to look forward to, and we'll close with our creative quote of the day. Stick around. AZ Creates is sponsored by Mary Contreras State Farm Insurance. A longtime supporter of the arts, Contreras offers insurance for autos, homeowners, renters, personal, business, life, and health, plus annuities and mutual funds. Located in Tempe, contact Mary Contreras through her website at marycontreras.com. In our Creative Connections segment, we'd like you to meet Adriene Buffington, a fiber and glass artist from Prescott. Welcome to AZ Creates, Adriene.
Hi, Laurie. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for asking me.
I'm very glad that you could be here with us today. So you have been a fiber artist for many years now, working with fabrics and threads, and even dyeing your own fabrics, and you wrote a book on dyeing fabrics. You have also worked very large as smaller, and you said that more recently you're working a little bit smaller. Tell us a little bit about your current fiber pieces to begin with.
Well, in the last year or so, I have not been doing any big quilts, although I have one in my design studio that's been percolating for about a year. I've done a couple of smaller pieces. Most of the work I'm doing now is pieced and sewn together and then mounted on canvas, so it hangs real nice and flat on the wall and not actually like quilted and bound like a traditional quilt. I did one piece recently for the Tiz Gallery in Prescott. Has a show every year called Black and White with a Splash of Color. So I was digging around in my box of black and white fabrics, actually looking for material to make a mask for my son. And I discovered studies that I had started in a Nancy Crow workshop probably 25 years ago. And I pulled them out and said, hey, these have potential. So I put them back up on my design wall and did some more slicing and inserting color white into the black and played around with it for a while. And as I was trying to design the quilting stitches, I did those using the Procreate app on my iPad. So I kind of tried out different ways I wanted to do the stitching. I ended up doing both machine stitching and hand quilting. And as I was finishing it up, I pulled out my old Nancy Crow book that she had autographed for me in a workshop that I took from her. And I read this crazy dedication. Dear Adriene, try to stay focused on your work and work faster. So I thought, well, Nancy, 24 years later, I'm finishing this piece. How fast is that for you?
That's right. Good for you. That's hysterical. Oh my God. Well, okay, now, so fast forward, you've jumped from fiber to making lampwork glass beads. And this is such a totally different thing from fiber. What first attracted you to glass in the first place?
Well, I have to say, for decades, I resisted doing anything but fiber art. I was like, no, I don't want to get distracted. I only want to do the one thing. But then a friend of, actually, our husbands were friends from work. And I met this woman, and she was a lampwork bead artist. And she hired me to do a commission for her. So as I'm working on an art quilt for them, Diane kept saying to me, Adriene, you would love lampwork. You just need to light a torch and melt some glass. And she finally twisted my arm, and I was hooked. So I've been making lampwork glass beads for a little over 4 years now, and absolutely love the process, the end result. I'm hooked. Thank you,
That
Diane Rogers, for getting me into it.
There you go. Thank you, or condolences, I guess, depending on how much you're spending on glass rods these days. So, Adriene, in your artist statement, you say your intention is to, quote, contribute small bits of beauty to the world and to share my joy with those who view and wear my creations, unquote. How lovely is that?
Yeah.
How about talking a little bit about your creative process, whether it's using textiles or whether you're using glass?
That's a great question, Laurie. As I was thinking about sharing my creative process with your Arizona Creates viewers, I realized something I hadn't really put into words before. And that is that the way that I organize my materials has a lot to do with the way I work, whether I'm working with glass or beads to make jewelry or fabric to make my fiber art. I keep all my stash in plastic boxes that I can easily open and see almost everything I've got in the box. And they're all organized by color, whether it's the glass rods in my glass studio or the fabric in my closet in my fiber studio. They're all in these boxes organized by color. But I also, at various different times, will pull together a collection of different colors, different values, different textures, and those will be my little pile of what's next. So I'll have 3, 4, 5, 6 palettes put together already of what's on deck, what I'm going to work on next. So when I finally get ready to start a new project, all I have to do is look at that what's on deck box, or in the case of the glass rods, they're stored in beer glasses, and I have it all collected together and I can just sit down and start playing.
So then you're ready to go with whatever that next project might be, and you don't have to be digging around for it either, right?
Right. I'm not really starting with a blank slate because I've got my palette already picked out. So I can just dive right in and start working.
Okay, let's talk about glass specifically. Tell us a little bit about your studio and some of the materials that you use.
Well, my lamp working studio is in a corner of my garage, which is downstairs under the rest of my house. I have a torch that is oxygen and propane that is a hot enough flame to melt the rods of glass that I buy in all the different colors you can possibly buy them in, and wrap the melted glass around a stainless steel mandrel. And then I can decorate it with little broken bits of glass, or I can write on it with sort of spaghetti thin stringers of glass. I can add all different colors and textures and shape the glass while it's molten like honey. It's a really fun improvisational process. You get a nice little blob of glass. And I can pull it. You use stringer to draw on the glass because you have a bead that you're making.
Okay.
And you're holding it in the flame and then drawing on it by moving the bead and holding the glass steady. So here I am wrapping the glass around that stainless steel mandrel. It looks like a big lumpy mess at first, but I'm going to even that out in the flame. I could do this all day. If you can see over here that I have little brass presses. Press this guy into a nice round lentil shape. Okay?
Yeah.
Sort of flat round. All right, and now comes the fun part where we draw on it. I'll have my colors picked out ahead of time and maybe a general idea of what I want to do. But once I sit down with the torch, it's kind of a back and forth conversation between me and what the glass is doing and how I'm feeling in that day. And every bead I make is a different thing than the one I made before.
So kind of like with fiber too, the glass or the fiber kind of talks to you, right?
Yes.
Like that,
yes.
To the conversation. Yes.
And I have a hard time following patterns, and I never repeat myself. I will work in a series, though. I'll do several different pieces, like I've got the purple and greens back here, or lately in my glass, I've been doing real mid-century modern colors. So I'll play around with the same color palette for a while, but I'll never repeat the same exact piece.
Good. Let's take a look at a couple of your glass pieces, and you seem to be in a bit of a heart mode at the moment, right?
Yeah, I do keep repeating the idea of glass hearts, but every single one I make is different. This one's got a ruffly wing and dangly things down at the bottom. And I think of these hearts almost like people. Now, I'm not thinking of a specific person when I'm making them, but each heart represents a person, and every person is different, and every heart that I make is different.
Nice. And it's wearable art as well, which makes a difference for art that stays in your house, right?
Yeah, yeah. And people fill up their walls with things to hang on their walls and won't buy any more paintings or art quilts, but we keep buying ourselves clothes and jewelry and pretty things, especially in a time where everything is so crazy. It's easy to spend less than $100 and make yourself happy and pretty.
That's true. Good point. Good point. Now, you moved from Gilbert to Prescott about 3.5 years ago, and you've gotten involved in the Prescott area studio tour, which has been going on some 13 years, and unfortunately had to be canceled this year due to COVID and went online instead. So what was your part in the tour this year?
Well, I'm on the executive committee for the tour, and what I signed up to do was organize the brochure mailing part of the project, but of course we didn't mail out brochures this year. We did an online auction instead. So I was part of that. But the Prescott studio tour is actually really near and dear to my heart. Joe and I would drive up from Gilbert several years in a row to visit all the different studios all around Prescott. And we would say, oh, we love these people. And oh, this is a neat part of town. So thanks to the Prescott Artist Studio Tour, we are now permanent Prescott residents.
That's good. And hopefully in 2021, with the vaccine coming, they are planning to do an in-person tour this year, and it'll be October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So keep our fingers crossed that that's going to happen. Speaking of which, how have you been doing during the pandemic?
I'm doing okay. I have, lots of creative spaces in a house that I just love. I live with somebody that I enjoy being with all the time. We've been married for almost 40 years and kind of enjoy each other's company. And it's given me a chance to try some new things and finish up on some old things.
Good. You mentioned your sheltering quilt. Talk a little bit about that one.
Just before the pandemic really took off and stores and galleries were shutting down, I was a guest artist at the Arts Prescott Co-op in Prescott on Whiskey Row. And I had a whole wall of my work, and somebody came in and said, I love that. I want one for my sister. Can you do it smaller and much less expensive? So I took the opportunity to work on a quilt that was inspired by another piece I had done that's kind of riffing off one of my favorite artists, whose name is Hundertwasser, who loves the motif of a spiral. So I did a smaller version of the quilt with that spiral motif and tried some new techniques that I hadn't tried before. And it just kind of felt like centering and sheltering and the path that takes you inward rather than all around the world.
And it's beautiful. Love the colors on that as well. Just luscious colors.
Thank you. And my client really loved it. Another thing that happened right at the beginning of the shutdown, Laurie, is you and I were going back and forth about making fabric masks for people. And I was asking you, how did you do the measuring? How did you do this? And I came up with a way to make the pleats in a pleated mask. So I made a video about an easy way to make pleats in your fabric masks. And that has had over 560,000 people watch that video. I'm amazed. And I think if everybody who watched it made a half a dozen masks, then that little thing that I did contributed to millions of people being safer during this pandemic.
Exactly.
And I couldn't have done that myself. I'm so pleased to have been able to give that to the world.
Absolutely. That is so fun. Okay, how about a little lightning round, just some short few word answers here. What is your best time to create?
Usually between breakfast and lunch, although if it's cold in my flame working studio, I'll work later on in the afternoon.
Okay. What about who's the most inspirational person in your world?
I would have to say my mom. My mother taught me to sew when I was 6 years old. Our house was always filled with beautiful things and art books, and she took me to museums, and she was even a jeweler for several years. So she has been my encourager and my inspiration, and I miss her a lot. She passed away last summer.
I'm sorry to hear that. Nice. That's great to have her still inspiring you, though, however.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about any advice for new artists, perhaps?
Well, for everybody, this is my advice for me and for everybody else. Use the good stuff. Use it. Don't save it. We sometimes buy a really expensive, really wonderful piece of whatever, or food or hand lotion, and we won't use it because we're afraid of wasting it. But if you use the good stuff, you're not wasting it. If it's sitting in your stash, it's wasted.
Isn't that a good point? And it is so true. We hate to cut that beautiful piece of fabric, but you're right. It does feel good when you do finally use it, right? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Adriene, thank you so much. Adriene is online at adrienebuffington.com. You can see a lot more of her artwork there. She's on Facebook as well. So continued good luck with your fiber and your glass work. Adriene, thank you so much for being with us today on AZ Creates.
Thank you, Laurie, and thank you for being such an encouragement to artists and art lovers all around Arizona. You have been one for me for probably 12, 15 years at least.
Thank you so much. That's very sweet of you to say. What are you reading with book author Edward L. Gates is next. Don't go away. AZ Creates is sponsored by Sibley's West, the Chandler and Arizona gift shop in historic downtown Chandler. A strong supporter of Arizona creatives, Sibley's West features work from more than 200 artists, specializing in Arizona items and souvenirs, including art, pottery, food, jewelry, and much more. Now open 7 days a week for the month of December at 72 South San Marcos Place in Chandler. Online shopping is also available with convenient and safe curbside pickup. Visit SibleysWest.com for details. Our featured author today is Edward L. Gates of Prescott, who has 2 books published and a third one coming soon. Good to have you on AZ Creates, Ed.
Thank you, Laurie. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I thank you for inviting me.
I'm glad we could. Thank you. So you've been living in Arizona for quite some time now, but you told me that you grew up in Ohio and actually had a love of Westerns way back as a kid. Tell me how that came about.
I got that actually from my father. He was a Western fanatic, and I don't know why, because he's never really been to the West. But I remember growing up, in his nightstand, his bottom drawer of his nightstand was just jammed packed with these pocket paperback Westerns. And he read them all, L'Amour, Short, Gray, all of them he read. And he would read one every couple nights. And then, when he finished that one, he'd throw it into one of those brown paper grocery bags. And when the bag got filled, he would take it to a book exchange and trade them in for a whole bag full of new ones, and he'd dump them in the drawers. And I'd always ask him about what he was reading. Sometimes he'd actually read to me. But every time there was a Western on TV, either a movie or a TV show, he was down in front of it watching it, and I was usually there by his side.
Isn't that interesting? Well,
yeah.
So now you're writing Western stories, but they have a little science fiction element in them too. How did the sci-fi element work its way into it?
Well, growing up, kind of in my teens and early 20s, I started reading a few sci-fi books, and I got really interested in, and more specifically in the concept of time travel. And I thought it'd be kind of nice to write a book involving time travel. But the thing of it is that there was a million books out there about time travel. A million shows and movies were all made about time travel. And it's always from the aspect of the traveler, what he sees when he goes back in time, or what he sees when he goes forward in time, and how he feels about all that. And I always wondered, what do the people feel who he's visiting? I wanted to write a book and from the aspect of the people that he's visiting. So if a time travel goes back to the Old West, how does the cowboys feel about this guy? Not so much about what the traveler feels about the Old West, but what do the cowboys feel about the guy? So that's the way it came about. The first book was primarily a Western, and it's got a real good Western. One of the reviews on the Amazon website said that it's a nice Western, bookended by a nice little science fiction swing. So that was kind of nice.
There you go. That is good.
Yeah.
So your first book, A Ranger's Time, takes place in Amarillo, Texas, during the town's rapid expansion back in that day. Charlie Turlock is an aging Texas Ranger who's fighting outlaws and personal issues as well. There's a bit of the sci-fi element to the story. I don't want to give any spoilers, though. So if you would, Ed, set up the scene and read a little bit from A Ranger's Time, please.
Yeah, Charlie Turlock is an aging Texas Ranger. He's been a Texas Ranger for 25 years. He's nearing the end of his career time with the Rangers. He's also ending his time alive. He's approaching his senior years now. So there's a lot of time aspects in it, and that's how the Ranger's Time got its title. But in the scene I'm going to read for you, one of his light duties as a Texas Ranger was taking prisoners from Amarillo, Texas, up to Canyon City, the territorial prison in Colorado. And he would take them up by rail, and then he would ride back on his horse. He loved the solitude of being out in the prairie and being alone with his horse and thinking. And the scene I'm going to read to you is just about when he meets the first time traveler. Charlie woke with a shudder. Had he heard some noise? Or did he dream he heard something? It took a moment to get his bearings, and then he froze. What? And from where? His ears strained in the stillness. There's nothing. He propped himself up on an elbow and listened more attentively, trying to hear the slightest sound. Charlie looked over at his horse. Gus was staring intently at him, his eyes wide and his ears pointed, and then he gave a low neigh. Something was troubling him. Over the years, Charlie had become acutely aware of Gus's slightest movements and noises. He furrowed his brow. He senses something. Charlie got off his makeshift bed and pulled his Colt from the holster. He slowly walked to Gus and put a calming hand on his nose. What is it, boy? He whispered. What are you hearing? Charlie backed himself along Gus's side and out of what little light the dying fire emitted. He didn't want to make himself a target to whatever or whoever might be lurking in the dark. Gus snorted and tried to break away from whatever he was sensing, but Charlie grabbed a rope to his halter and held him close. Easy there, Charlie quietly said. He squatted amidst the sagebrush, still clutching the rope in one hand and his Colt in the other. He stared out into the blackness where Gus was facing. Charlie thought this might be one of Walker's advanced scouts looking for water and grazing land for tomorrow. But then he reconsidered that notion. It couldn't be. They wouldn't be this far north yet, and they certainly wouldn't be riding in the middle of the night.
Oh, that's great. That's great. No, I really enjoyed the story, too. The whole science fiction element just worked really well, into the whole piece, too. So, Ed, you've written Ranger's Quest, the beginning, and you said you have a third Charlie Turlock story in the works called Trinidad.
Right.
And you said you're hoping to be a 5 to 6 part book series, but explain the order in which you're writing them and the order in which they are actually taking place.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird story. Actually, I wrote Arranger's Time as pretty much, actually, all the novels are going to be standalone novels. But I wrote Arranger's Time. I've had so many people write to me and ask me, well, how did this happen? Or how did he get to here? Or what happened before this time? And all this. And so I thought, those are good questions and they need to be answered. So Arranger's Time, essentially, even though it was the first book I wrote, is actually going to be the last book in the series. And after you read it, you find out why. But so I wrote Ranger's Quest, the beginning. And this is how Charlie Turlock became Charlie Turlock. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say about that. Because if I let out any more, spoiler alert.
No worries. I got it. So, Ed, you are also a scenic designer for theater up in Prescott area. You've been an actor. How have you been doing during the whole pandemic?
Oh, wow. Prescott Center for the Arts is essentially shut down earlier this year, very early at the beginning of the year. So all the programs and plays and presentations that we had all lined up for this whole year have been scrapped. So I haven't been doing much of that at all. They decided that they were going to remodel the theater and turn it from basically a tiered audience seating arrangement into a cabaret. And so I was tapped to design and build the remodeling of the theater. And it turned out beautifully. We just essentially reopened this month. And they've got a whole slate of new programs that they're going to be running. There's going to be a Christmas show for kids going on. And then after that, there's going to be a song and dance routine, a show with that for a few days in the middle of January. So they got a lot of things on the slate coming up. And along with the entertainment, we have some restaurants, various restaurants in town who are on board to bring in and serve some food and drink there.
And I have to say, I think Prescott Center for the Arts has been one of the many very creative ways of reopening and revamping and rethinking and just having to be flexible during this crazy time. So kudos to them for being able to do it and do it safely as well. So Ed, a little quick lightning round here for you.
Okay.
Just quick, short answers. What is your best time to create?
Oh, early in the morning. I get up around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I usually get a cup of coffee and sit down at my desk and start writing there. It's quiet, no TV, no telephones, there's no traffic outside. It's perfect.
Right, good. What about your favorite part of writing?
Characters. I love creating characters, and the deeper I make them, the more of a backstory I give them, the more of a back life I give them, the more real they become. And there's sometimes I've been writing these stories, and these characters are so deep in my head that I just automatically know what these people are going to be saying or what they're going to be doing in the next few scenes. So it's kind of, I hate to use the term or the cliche that the story writes itself, but it kind of gets to that point.
Sure. And what about your not so favorite part of writing? Is there one?
Not so favorite part of writing. I'll sit down at my keyboard and I'll just start keying away and start putting the sentences down as they're coming to me. And then I'll go back later and read them and like, oh my gosh, what a mess. And so thank God I got a good editor.
That's right. Indeed. And you can find out more about Ed Gates on his website and all the projects that he's involved in at edwardlgates.com. So good to talk to you today, Ed.
It's been a real pleasure, Laurie. Thank you again for asking me.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Our featured nonprofit arts organization and upcoming arts events are next. Don't miss them. AZ Creates highlights Free Arts for Abused Children of Arizona. Free Arts AZ is the only nonprofit organization in the state delivering creative and therapeutic arts programs at no cost to children ages 3 to 21 who faced abuse, neglect, and homelessness. The mission of Free Arts AZ is to transform children's trauma to resilience through the arts by creating a safe and positive environment where children can express themselves. That artistic expression gives children a much-needed release valve and the chance to explore new ways of art with intention and the freedom to create in a judgment-free environment. Sign up for their newsletter and donate to the organization by visiting freeartsaz.org. This is a December like none other we've ever experienced, but we hope you're able to take in some of the holiday arts events, whether they're virtual or in person. Here's AZ Creates co-host Cathy Beard with all the details.
Thanks, Laurie. 'Tis the season to creatively bring good cheer to friends and family with colorful lights, festive music, classic dance, and joyful celebrations. So get into the holiday spirit as we jingle all the way. Enjoy the premiere filmed version of the musical The Great Christmas Cookie Bake-Off from the Prescott Center for the Arts on Friday, December 18th. It's a hybrid live performing arts experience that brings a talented group of community actors, young and adult, coming together socially distanced for this holiday musical. This sweet show combines the time-honored tradition of Christmas cookies with the ever-popular phenomenon of reality baking competitions. Enjoy the holiday cheer as the chefs learn what really makes for a winning Christmas recipe. Tickets are $10, which supports youth scholarships and programs for the holidays. For more information, go to pca-az.net. The annual iconic holiday classic, The Nutcracker Suite, will be available from Ballet Arizona in a digital version filmed in the company's theater, complete with the wintry forest of the Snow Queen and King and the land of the Sugar Plum Fairy. Tickets are available for the streaming production starting Saturday, December 19, and are available for 24 hours after purchase. Tickets will be emailed with the streaming link. Visit Ballet Arizona at balletaz.org and click on The Nutcracker. It wouldn't be the holidays in Arizona without a mariachi Christmas coming to the Scottsdale Performing Arts Center at 8 p.m. Saturday, December 19th. This special performance includes treasured holiday favorites and selections from the Mariachi Songbook, performed by a fifth-generation mariachi musician, Maestro Jose Hernandez, and his platinum-selling Mariachi Sol de Mexico. They were the first mariachi ensemble to be nominated for a Grammy Award, and they bring irreverent renditions from Hernandez that have become instant classics. Tickets are available at scottsdaleperformingarts.org for both in-person and virtual performances. Then celebrate the 250th birthday of Ludwig van Beethoven at Scottsdale Performing Arts during Keyboard Conversations with Jeffrey Siegel, celebrating Beethoven at 7:30 p.m. Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. Learn about and listen to the beloved Moonlight Sonata and Sonata Opus 110, written after deafness engulfed the legendary composer. Pianist Jeffrey Siegel returns for his 42nd season in Scottsdale, which includes his piano repertoire, commentary, and Q&A session. Finally, it's a grand night for singing when the Scottsdale Musical Theater presents Rodgers and Hammerstein's Tony-nominated production at 7:30 p.m. Wednesday, January 20th. A grand night for singing is the consummate tribute to the greatest duo in Broadway history, Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein II, featuring songs from Carousel, State Fair, South Pacific, The King and I, Cinderella, Flower Drum Song, The Sound of Music, and Oklahoma. A grand night for singing is a masterful songfest for those who love musical theater. For all the details, visit scottsdalearts.org and click on events. For you early bird walkers, experience a new guided walking tour in Tempe with ASU Art Museum Director Mickey Garcia from 7 to 8:30 a.m. Tuesday, December 22nd. The free Sunrise Light Walk explores important features on ASU's Tempe campus, from the ASU Art Museum to the A Mountain in downtown Tempe. The Art Museum also collaborated with 3 Native American artists to create a coloring book that represents traditional stories involving light from the Native American peoples of the Southwest, which is free to all attendees. Wear comfortable shoes, bring a cell phone, a pair of headphones, and your mask. There's an audio tour map to download on the registration site at asuevents.asu.edu by searching for Sunrise Light Walk. For a safe celebration for the community, the Black Theater Troupe will broadcast its beloved holiday show, Black Nativity, during Christmas week. Founded 50 years ago, Black Theater Troupe has been producing Langston Hughes' Black Nativity each year for the holidays. A company of singers, actors, dancers, and musicians delivers its powerful message of joy, hope, victory, and liberation that warms the heart at a very special time of the year. This year, they will present an encore presentation of the 2019 performances of Black Nativity free of charge. It will be available to view on Black Theater Troupe's YouTube channel and Facebook page from the comfort of your home anytime from December 23rd at 10 a.m. until December 26th at 10 p.m. Donations to support the Black Theater Troupe can be made online at blacktheatertroupe.org. Stroll through 8,000 flickering luminarias and twinkling lights at the annual Las Noches de las Luminarias at the Desert Botanical Gardens in Phoenix, now through December 31st. Special lighting displays, refreshments, music, and more is on tap this season. Advanced reservations are required, and entry times have a limited capacity to allow for social distancing. Visit dbg.org and click on events for tickets. Zoolights at the Phoenix Zoo, one of the Valley's favorite holiday traditions, is back with millions of twinkling lights, dazzling animal sculptures, and a wildlife lantern safari featuring 66 creatures like polar bears, mammoths, peacocks, and more, all aglow. Now through January 31st, you can walk through the Zoo Lights, and this year feel the magic when you cruise Zoo Lights, a drive-through experience from the comfort of your own vehicle. Meet Santa and his elves at Leapin' Lagoon, and check out the 3-story Christmas tree located at Crossroads Cafe. Holiday treats, including kettle corn and hot cocoa, will be available for purchase. Check the event website at phoenixzoo.org for the Zoo Lights schedule. Take in the work of 5 artists at the Peace Exhibition at the Tempe Center for the Arts, now through January 24th. This special outdoor display includes a 75-foot-long peace art wall along the exterior windows of the TCA's Sculpture Garden and a 5-person mini art exhibition visible from the gallery windows that face the TCA's East Breezeway entrance. For information, visit TempeCenterForTheArts.com and click on the gallery. The Fair Trade Cafe at First Avenue and Roosevelt in Phoenix is open again following a remodel that included local artists who helped decorate the coffee shop. Owner Stephanie Vasquez brought in Luisa Leon to create a mural in the courtyard called Conscience to symbolize the impact that humans have as consumers on Mother Earth and the livelihood of others across the world. In addition, local artists display their art on the walls of the cafe on a monthly basis. AZ Creates viewer Harry Decker also had a hand in renovating the tables and chairs at the cafe. Find out more at azfairtrade.com. As 2020 comes to a close, we hope that you are safe, healthy, helping others in need, and supporting a creative community too. We're looking for great events in February of 2021, so send us an email at azcreates.artonlineaz@gmail.com. Thank you so much for following us at AZ Creates. Happy holidays, and have a spectacular new year, which is something to look forward to. See you next year.
Thanks for all that information, Cathy, and happy holidays to you as well. AZ Creates is sponsored by the Times Media Group, a digital and print media company that operates in the Phoenix and Tucson metro markets. It serves a wide variety of demographic audiences and communities with more than 1.1 million printed copies and millions of online readers each month. Publications include the Santan Sun News, Chandler Arizonan, Gilbert Sun News, Mesa Tribune, Scottsdale Progress, and many more. For details, visit Times Publications at timespublications.com. Many of you know the name Dale Carnegie, who developed public speaking and self-help courses. My late father, Laurie Fagen, taught Dale Carnegie classes for some 11 years, so I practically grew up with Mr. Carnegie. We close this show with his quote about giving. The essence of all art is to have pleasure in giving pleasure. If you're an artist, you take great pleasure in giving of yourself and your artwork. And if you're an art patron, we hope that we've connected you with many artists so that you can give artwork during this holiday season. Please reach out to our Facebook and Instagram pages at Art Online AZ if you need more ideas or need to find more artists. And if you need additional information, you can always email us at azcreates.artonlineaz@gmail.com. Let us know what you're looking for, and we'll make that connection for you. We're going to take a short hiatus, but we will be back in early 2021. In the meantime, please have a safe and healthy holiday and make every day a creative one. See you next time.